Problem is with Alien 4 was Ripley died at the end of Alien 3, and then you resurrect her for no other reason than to jerk off in the fucking audience's eyes, which I just can't tolerate. It's just a corruption of an idea. I mean, sequels in general are a corruption of an original idea anyway, but that just gets ridiculous. I mean, look at the Terminator franchise, or the way that's rebooted and just become a complete farce in an embarrassing way. I mean, I don't even know how Arnold Schwarzenegger can put his name to those films anymore. I mean, obviously I do, because, everyone, no matter how rich you are, always wants more money, which I understand, it's business. We don't do this shit for free. The problematic issue with franchises when you have faces attached to it, like Sigourney Weaver or Arnold Schwarzenegger, is you end up having people writing scripts to simply include these characters without regard to any consistency to a plot or a theme or anything like that. It just becomes insulting to the audience who have obviously seen these things. What do they call it? There's an expression, plot armor. I haven't seen Game of Thrones, but apparently plot armor didn't exist in that show, and that seemed to work out pretty fucking fine. As far as my concept for both the Alien and the Terminator franchise was to pure and simply get away from those problematic concepts of having these faces attached to it. I know when I made the Terminator trailer, people who saw it, a lot of comments, people were saying that, or assuming that the character who does the little bit of monologue and the voiceover is John Connor, and no, it's not. None of the Connors were in my Terminator idea at all. Just as Ellen Ripley had nothing to do with my Alien plot. Because it's a fucking universe full of millions of fucking people having their own experiences. Why do we have to constantly focus on these fucking people? So I wanted to focus on completely different stories that, like with the Alien and with the Terminator, that were based around core themes. I mean, Alienated, the title alone, is a theme unto itself of this idea of space, for fuck's sake. The idea of being in space is a pretty fucking terrifying idea. I mean, I always equated the idea of space to like being in the sea, which I personally would find fucking terrifying. There's this extreme isolation or alienation of being somewhere a fucking million miles from anywhere familiar. I thought while I made my treatment for Alienated, my pitch, that it would suit my artistic style that I had developed during the music videos that I'd made in my own personal time in the previous years, which involves silhouettes, a heavy amount of silhouettes, just black on black with mist or things in the background just defining outlines, and that served perfectly for aliens, as they are predominantly black, therefore they fade right into the background. I mean, that was pretty well explored in multiple films, that they look like they are part of the background. And the Terminator, I mean, the Terminators are obviously this chrome metallic, but they also serve perfectly well as black silhouettes. Once you understand the simplistic design that is the Terminator endoskeleton, it is a fantastic design in its simplicity. But then you can create these fairly effective silhouettes with red eyes for the Terminator, or with the Alien, it was just the teeth. That's it. Super simple. But that was what's interesting about the Alien idea, is if you come across another species out there, and I thought Ridley Scott did a really good job of that. A good job and a terrible job at the same time. Alien Covenant, this idea of people just wandering around the planet without fucking any sort of respiratory system, is retarded. Officially, that's fucking retarded. could not respect a single character in that film at that point, which was at the beginning. But the idea, which freaked the shit out of me if I was traveling to another planet, is what microscopic organisms could fucking get into my lungs and fuck me up, let alone gestate into some horrific spine-bursting fucking creature. That's not original. That goes way the fuck back to War of the Worlds. Whenever the fuck that was written 100 fucking years ago. There's certain aspects of plot you can forgive, suspension of disbelief, yeah. But when you have shit like that, it's just pissing in the audience's face. I mean, as an adult, it's pissing in their face. Especially these fucking films that love to tote on about how fucking scientific and authentic they are. Come on. It's insulting. The community of people who do a lot of artwork about the alien, they really like to overemphasize every little detail, and they've really forgotten how to keep things in the dark, literally. The most interesting compositions are things where shit is obscured, especially when it comes to something which is like the Alien franchise. I hate that fucking word, but there's something in the fucking dark that's gonna fucking eat your fucking face. I remember as a teenager, I have an older brother, and he was very much into Star Trek. I always remember looking at Star Trek, the sets of the Enterprise, and everything is amazingly lit, just like this fucking room. Everything is lit right up. You can see every fucking little detail. And there was nothing hiding anywhere because everything was fucking lit to shit. What was great about the original Alien, Ridley Scott, still to this day, understands, is creating atmosphere. Most places are dark as shit, especially industrial places. Industrial places, I don't know if you've ever gone urban exploring, if you've ever gone to places where there's no power and there's just these crazy factories and it's dark as shit and it's overgrown and it's fucking filthy. And there's puddles and there's pools of water that could be Christ knows how fucking deep. You just don't know what the fuck is in there. Just the presence of these things are intimidating on a primal fucking level. I mean, that is the fucking problem when it comes to these things. And I see it as a slight blessing in disguise that both my Alien and my Terminator pitches went nowhere because they would never please anyone. That's the problem with IP, is you have this double-edged sword where you have a fan base, which is great, but then you also have these fans that will just be fucking unsatisfied no matter what you fucking do. I mean, Ridley Scott's, I'm sure, very fucking well aware of that situation, where you have these films he's put out, these last two that he's made, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, especially Alien Covenant, where he obviously tried to fucking pander to some audience members, and pleased no one. Pleased fucking no one. But I mean, 2011, 10 fucking years ago, I finished Alienated, my pitch. And it was the year that Prometheus came out. I remember a friend in Canada who made the soundtrack. She sent me like a side-by-side comparison of the scenes that were very similar between Prometheus's trailer and my pitch trailer, which I thought was amusing. I'm not particularly a great fan of Prometheus, but I appreciate the fact that Ridley Scott wasn't just trying to tread old water, and he seems pretty open about admitting not treading old fucking water. But a lot of these fans just want that fucking water treaded right into their fucking faces. And that's tedious as shit. Do people forget concepts of these things where it's supposed to be, I mean, they are horror fucking films. There's supposed to be some sort of thriller aspect, some sort of tension where you fucking don't know what's going on. But again, they fucking have to over-explain and exposition dump right over your fucking head. So the question of why did I make the Alien and the Terminator films was, as an adult, you do these things, we do homages to the things that once inspired you. I don't commit any amount of time, especially something like an animated pitch, which is 2.5 to 3 minutes long, without having a pretty fucking good idea about what I'm going to do, that I really want to commit to making that fucking thing. Animation is a fucking slow and tedious fucking process. I've been doing it for 23 fucking years. And to this day, 10 years, it's been 10 years since I made Alien, and I still watch it and go, yeah, it's pretty good. I quite like it. It stood the test of time, in my eyes at least. Make it look cool is one of the best pieces of advice I ever read. My mother bought me the making of Terminator 2. I remember reading, it was the title of a chapter, it said, make it look cool. I was like, it's a good piece of advice. Which is the very exact same principle when it comes to silhouettes, which is why I love silhouettes so much. It's a fundamental of animation. Is if you remove all color and it's just a black and white shape, you should understand what Mickey Mouse fucking is. And if you can make it look fucking cool, then that's a bonus. But there needs to be more than just it looking cool. There needs to be some theme in there that fucking you can relate to, or you can get confused by it, or afraid of, or what the fuck sort of movie you fucking making like that. I mean, there is definitely a market for adults who enjoy adult animation, but at the same time, how much of that is still fucking watered the fuck down? And again, I understand you need to placate to the producers, and the producers get to say what goes and what doesn't. And personally, I find that crippling to a truly interesting plot. There's very few films that really push that envelope. I think of Antichrist, some of the graphic nature of that, or the Serbian film. Those films had moments. But people will instantly dismiss them as pornographic, or dismiss them as gratuitous or unnecessary. You should leave that sort of violence or that sort of sexual content out of it for certain things. And I say, fuck off. I think it's absolutely necessary. That scene in Antichrist where she takes the scissors and snips off her clitoris. How you want to fucking just cut that scene out and just have it on her face? Grow the fuck up. If you never fucking... I think when working with subject matter such as a concept like a alien organism that violates your oral orifice, and then it gestates within you, and then it violently erupts out of you in some capacity. I think there needs to be a certain amount of gratuitous, explicit violence in there. I just think of the original Alien, or even Aliens, and they had these extreme close-ups on the face huggers, spread eagle vagina. And let's not pretend that that's not what it is, because it obviously is. We've all seen H.R. Geiger's work. And that's brilliant. And then you have the classic of all time classic scenes where the alien erupts out of John Hurt's chest wearing a beautiful white t-shirt, which I'll never wear in my life after seeing that scene. And then you have films like Aliens vs. Predator. And there is a scene in that just bursts out. The Predator grabs it and he snaps its neck, or some fucking ridiculous moment like that. And there's not a drop of blood anywhere in sight. That is insulting. Alien pitch, I'd written a fairly brief treatment for the whole plot. The plot of Exterminator was much more Shakespearean because I wanted it to be quite political, in the idea that the main protagonist, this wartime hero, just gets taken advantage of by the politics in the post-apocalyptic world. I just thought that was the most interesting way of starting the whole plot of that. Terminator doesn't come until, I think, Act 2. It's all focused on the humans and just the way they fuck each other over. I mean, that, again, is explicitly stated in my trailer. What do you say? We never thought to ask ourselves why the machines chose to exterminate us. I mean, that's self-fucking evident as far as I'm concerned, why the fuck the machines chose to exterminate us. We all fucking know why, because we're pieces of fucking shit. Look at how we fucking treat our fucking selves. Look at the things we've done to our planet. The idea of the Terminators just fulfilling what we're inevitably going to do ourselves was just poetic justice in some sense. I considered in that, yeah, we follow this protagonist of ours, but when the chips are down, we tend to fucking backstab our way out of any situation. And I didn't want to fucking put it in some post-apocalyptic world where we all just get along. We're savages. We're fucking savages. And then you have these machines that have this one objective, which is to wipe us out. Once they've done it, once they've completed their mission, they would shut down. What else would they do? What else would they do? They wouldn't go around just fucking... This is not the Matrix. They wouldn't try and live in some harmonious future utopian fucking bubble of a fucking machine society. Don't be fucking childish. A machine has a singular purpose. And then in my plot, the machines were to fucking wipe us the fuck out. I never understood this when it comes to films in general. I mean, I understand it with its plot armor. The idea of going up against an army of semi-sentient fucking machines that have bullseye accurate fucking targeting ability, we would stand zero fucking chance. Zero fucking chance. And I thought that's a fucking interesting idea. Why not fucking just explore the extremes of humanity's inhumanity to one another, and the extreme idea of how horrific the machines could treat us if they wanted to. But let's just say in Terminator 2, he said something about knowing, or was it Terminator 2 or Terminator 3, that fucking farce of a film. He knows basic psychology, so he knows how to use reverse psychology. Absolutely. If you were an infiltration unit as a machine, you would absolutely skull fuck the shit out of your opponents if you didn't have the ability to exterminate them with brute force. That would absolutely be an option, and it's absolutely an option in my treatment. There is a machine element that's infiltrated a certain aspect of the plot, and it's just manipulating the shit out of it, good old-fashioned Machiavellian style. And no one is none the wiser, because fucking it's just like everyone else. That might sound pessimistic, but come on. We're talking about a post-apocalyptic world. The very definition of being pessimistic. So why not explore those extreme ideas instead of this fucking goddamn tedious time travel horse shit? For fuck's sake. That is tedious as shit. Come on. No one's buying that shit. Time travel is fucking stupid to begin with. When they fucking made Endgame with the Avengers, the only option was to create time travel. And when I thought of that, I was like, surely they're not going to be that fucking lame. They did it. They did time travel. But I understand it because you did something ruthless, which was kill off a huge amount of characters that had this amazing plot armor, and you just wiped them out. And I was like, oh, fucking respect to those motherfuckers that killed off half their fucking crew. It's permanently dead. Amazing. I like it. There's consequences to this shit. People actually die in war on both sides. No Endgame came around. We can only cry about one main character that dies. Jesus Christ. So why did I make Alienated just because I could. Simply because I could. I had time on my hands and I had the ideas, so I did it. Would I do it now? Absolutely not. I wouldn't waste my fucking time. It was worth it at the time. I don't regret doing any of it. Of course, it led me to making my short film, Nephilim, 2 years ago, which, of course, came out when Corona was released, so it went nowhere. We're all going to die one day, so, give it your best shot when you can. Absolutely, I'd say. Like, you give young people advice. If you have an idea, do it. Go balls to the fucking walls with it, though. Don't fucking go pussyfoot around the idea. Push that fucking envelope until you've fucking gone as far as you can fucking go. And then fucking push it some more. Yeah, so let's hope Disney does some fantastic shit with the Alien franchise now that they own everything. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, they've done some relatively fine work with the Mandalorian. I mean, the Star Wars universe is a farce unto itself. There's too many captains of the ship, and it just becomes a mess. Everyone wants to put their 10 cents in there, and it turns into a nightmare. But that's the problem with the IP. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that shit. Good luck, sunshine. Good luck.